Here I am building walls again. There's always walls to build. It's building walls or planting fields. So as today's focus of the episode is actually to do with walls, I'm building up walls. Soon as they're done, we're going to get on with things. We're going to build some fortifications. We're getting up high with this, and I've still got to get over and finish those 2 fields. And there's still such a long way to go with planting. But we're not planting today. We are working on battlements today. So let's start with some basic terms. Actually, first I'm just going to count the length of this wall. I'll be back with you in a second. Okay, it's an odd number. That's a good thing. Right, I'm going to make crenellations today. So let's start with a couple of terms. So first off, I'm going to put a corbel. Now, we've had corbels before. We've had them supporting the roof beams for the floors, for the towers. So you know what that is. It's carved stone that supports whatever comes above it. So this is now insta-death height, even with feather falling. It probably is. I don't really want to test that out. Remember, this is hardcore. I die. We stopped building our historic castle and I haven't got anywhere near far enough yet. So I'm just going to run corbels right the way along. Okay, so next I want to... Oh, they're back. Next I want to make merlons. That's M-E-R-L-O-N. And that's the bits that stick up on the crenellations. The idea is that they're tall enough to protect people, the width of a person, or preferably 2 widths. I'm just going with 1. And yeah, that's nowhere near tall enough, but I think I'm just going to pop downstairs for a minute. Right, now they're tall enough. And that just makes them that little bit more interesting. Yeah, all these are spawnable. I'm dealing with that. Just not right this minute. So that's our merlons. Now the space between this space here, that's the crenel. That's what crenellations are named after. But that's enough for a crenel. But I'm allowing, see, that protects us, that wall. But it also has a hole. I can look right the way down to the base of the tower and I can fire down. If there was a pillager there, I'd have just fired an arrow through the top of his head. They're called machicolations. Now I could add another row of crenellations on this side, on the inner bailey side if I wanted to, and you do see that in castles. But it comes down basically to a matter of choice. Do I want to have this wall defendable in case the inner bailey falls? Or do I want this wall to be vulnerable to attack from the inner bailey and from the other walls should this section of wall get captured? So whether you've got crenellations on both sides depends on your circumstances, your wealth, because that's more expense, and personal choice. My personal choice is no crenellations on the inner bailey side. Right, now let's make the crenellations non-spawnable. And yes, this is giving me the heebies. If it's all right with you, I won't talk anymore while I'm doing this. There we are. So we can look out, we can fire down on those guys, and we can fire down on anyone. Here we can also drop liquids down on them, hot or cold. We can drop rubbish down on them, rocks, whatever we want. Charming, isn't it? That is the first of our battlements, the first of our crenellations. I'd love to go down and look at them. That was my plan, and I planned it. But those guys have changed my plans entirely. Oh, that was close. Okay. I think we might build up some more of the walls. Oh. And what about a leveling course? Excuse me while I go and get the correct stones, bricks, what have you. Right, if you are doing any sort of research into castles or battlements or what have you, you have probably come across the license to Crenellate. And if you haven't, you're probably sitting there going, what on earth is that, Dreamer? The term itself is Victorian, so that's a problem. The Victorians believed that you had to ask permission to crenellate or to fortify your home, and there would be consequences if you didn't seek permission. And that's more tied up with their ideas of centralised authority and empire and all the rest of it. The actual licenses are a bit more complicated than the Victorians made it sound. There are numerous surviving examples of granted licenses to embattle, kernel, and machicolate. So that's making battlements, crenellations, and machicolations. But these were not a granting of permission. It has been pointed out that there are far more fortified castles and manor houses than there are records of licenses. This could be down to what hasn't survived, but there is evidence that this isn't the case. Fees for licenses were small, if they were asked at all, so it wasn't a money spinner for the monarch, or they could also come on the continent from dukes or barons. In England, it tended to be the king, the Bishop of Durham, the Earl of Chester, and the Duke of Lancaster. The other thing that indicates that the licenses weren't required before you started fortifying your building is that there seems to be no punishments recorded for those who embattled without a license, because there were no real restrictions on building fortifications. Most licenses were granted on request as letters patent, and most of them dealt with several matters. There was no standard document. I've linked an article by Philip Davis from the Castle Studies Group Journal in the description below. It has a good survey of surviving licenses. It's worth looking at if only for the very first page, which has an image and transcript of a license from 1482, including its Great Seal still intact. The license covers not only permission to embattle, kernel and machicolate, but also to hold a market in the town every Friday, with consideration demanded for existing markets in the area. It seems that nobles could ask for these licenses, for these grants, and generally they'd be given them. The earliest probable license is from 1141, although there's some debate as to whether that's an actual license or not. Most, however, date from 1200 onwards. As there were no legal restrictions on fortifying a castle or a manor house, what was the point of granting a license? Primarily, it was a sign of royal favour or an acknowledgement of noble status. Battlements, fortifications, were expensive to build, so not everyone would be able to do it. As liege lord, part of what the king offered was protection. To deny a license to crenellate would be to deny that protection. The feudal system worked on obligations, obligations to protect and obligations to serve. A denial of protection could mean no service in return. So I can build whatever fortifications I want on this castle, whatever I can afford. Whether I get a license for any of it will depend on whether I ask and perhaps pay a nominal fee. Very few who asked were refused. There's a lot more to the granting of licenses for fortifications, but there's a quick overview. It's worth looking into further. Oh, good, they seem to be gone. I'm going to carefully go down there so that we can have a look at the crenellations. Oh, it's only a sheep, thank goodness. Okay, are we ready to turn around and look? They might be a little tall. Maybe I dropped that down by 1 and put the stairs on top there. Don't know. I'll wait till the towers are in and then I'll decide. We'll see. But at least it gives you the idea. Okay, I need to quarry some more stone. I need to make some more crenellations. I need to decide what to do about that. So while I'm doing that, there are end cards on the screen to some more of my videos. If you've made it this far, you get to see the solution I came up with for the crenellations, and instead of secret code phrase, I'd like you to put in the comments which version you think is better. I'll see you next time. Bye!